What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news, updates and teases for the future. And so in the video we'll touch on some bugs and issues which Bungie have recognised in the game right now. We are going to be getting another game update this week, and then we'll cover the weekly story, upcoming Season 18 content, and some interview segments about Bungie's plans for weapons, future sandbox changes, plus they touch on a few light details about Lightfall in some recent GameSpot coverage. So guys, as always, I hope you enjoy the video, and if you do, a rating below really does help us out, but without further delay, let's get into it. First thing to touch on regarding updates this week, and bear in mind we are going to see a hotfix on Thursday, September 8th. Most likely that'll be fixing a bunch of issues with the season, so as always I'll keep you posted. And from Bungie Help, they said due to an issue, the Quicksilver Storm exotic auto rifle has been disabled in raids, dungeons, Gambit, and Crucible. The same thing happened at the start of the season, it was re-enabled and then quickly disabled again. So we might get some fixes for that, but Bungie Help also recognised that they're investigating an issue where players are losing progression towards earning the Deep Sight Resonance reward chest in the King's Fall raid. There are also some bugs with that, although they did update and say that the issue causing Golgoroth to sometimes produce an extremely loud roar has been resolved. Cosmo also said that they've added to the known issues list the Thunderclap melee not triggering the powered melee on command. Cosmo added that they're looking to get that fixed in the next update. And also Bungie recognised an issue where the crafted BXR55 doesn't have a gold border, so there are quite a few things there that we'll potentially see fixed this week. Next though, for brief mention of the weekly story, we've finished new steps in the season quest for the week, and Spider and Mithrax demonstrate their distrust of each other as Ido, Mithrax's daughter, tries to learn more about her father's past. Turns out Mithrax doesn't appreciate this communication, so in case you missed it, here's the conversation in full.
Spider, there are questions my father refuses to answer. Have you seen him act this way before? You two were friends once.
Even if Mithrax had friends back then, I wasn't among them. I couldn't possibly speak to his behavior.
You're being evasive.
Oh, evasive? I prefer to think of it as coy. Well then, your father was unpredictable. We could have had everything we wanted if he listened to me, but he always knew better. Look at him now. Cal of a house, holed up inside the city. Picking over ruins, pretending he's content in the shadow of the great machine.
We were offered scraps and we took them.
Oh? Is that ingratitude I hear?
I do not call the truth ingratitude, but enough of who my father is. Who was he?
I expected this from Spider, but not from you.
I am simply performing my duties as scribe of House Light. I will gather knowledge regardless of who would keep it from me.
Ruckus, I told you not to speak of this. Do I have to dock your tongue?
Father! I apologize for the Kel's behavior.
Apology accepted. I see now. You're afraid little Ido will take off those rose-colored glasses. Such a delightful human phrase. And what will she see when she looks at you then? Do not speak to my daughter again. Oh, don't worry about me. Though, I'm not the only one who remembers. Sooner or later, she'll learn the truth. But I'm sure it will all work out. After all, what is it you say? The light provides.
Very interested to see how the story will pan out this season. It's interesting to have two characters kind of bouncing off each other, and it'll be interesting to see ultimately what happens there. Of course, as we've mentioned and further highlighted by Destiny Bulletin on Twitter, it looks like there is going to be some kind of community event for later in the season, and this will require players to donate captain's coins to build up the Elixni Quarter. Obviously going to happen at some point in this story progression for the season, and then ultimately that'll open up a new kind of mini event which includes a hidden mission called Rising Tide. We're very curious to see what that'll be like, and I'll keep you posted. Another quick mention here, but Destiny Bulletin pointed out that for players who complete the Kingsfall raid on any difficulty, there's a new Bungie Rewards emblem called Forged in Grace that can be unlocked. Pretty cool one there if you want to try and pick that up. Be sure to check out the Bungie Rewards page, which I'll link below. Next though, I wanted to touch on a bunch of weapon and sandbox stuff, as Mercules and Chris Proctor from Bungie had a couple of different interviews, including on the Massive Breakdown podcast and Firing Range podcasts, and it refers to changes that they're looking to make to weapons and sandbox in the future. Initially, there was conversation about the return of something like No Land Beyond, and Chris Proctor said we're not bringing No Land Beyond back, and that's for a good reason. The idea that we would do something even in that direction, like Dead Man's Tale, was ill-advised to start with. And he goes on to say, I think if we ever end up redesigning the PvP special ammo economy completely, we could potentially bring back some weapons like No Land Beyond, Icebreaker, Invective, but the ammo economy would have to completely change before we could do that in a way that would be balanced. And then separately in one of the interviews, Mercules from Bungie confirmed that old raid and dungeon weapons will get perk refreshes and origin traits at some point in the future. So of course, looking at things like Vault of Glass, or older dungeons like the Pit of Heresy, they don't have unique origin traits. And with them having some amount of endgame relevance, it would certainly make sense to update that. Mercules also added that there are going to be changes coming to the combat style mod systems like Warmind cells and Elemental wells, and those adjustments will be made in Lightfall. Not sure if we'll see reworks or some of them taken away, but he also said that multiple perks per column for crafted weapons are being investigated, but it's proving difficult and there are no concrete plans for now. He also added that aggressive fusions are almost definitely discontinued, and there may be something like that that builds on the lessons learned with them. So interesting commentary right there. We're probably not going to see more aggressive fusions in the near future. And then a few more interesting bits here. They said that more glaive exotic armor interaction is coming. However, they didn't confirm specifics like Wormgod Caress or Winter's Guile. So it'll be interesting to see how they tackle that. Plus they're looking at reworking a bunch of perk pools, and they say the concept is to let the most popular perks and combos stay and remove the 3 or 4 worst perks from each column and replace them with something new. That would certainly make a bunch of weapons more interesting, especially if they've got a lot of perks that folks don't really gravitate towards. This is where they also confirm that Lord of Wolves will see another rework in the future, and that the changes we saw at the start of Season 18 are just part 1 of the update to the weapon. Plus, the full auto setting, instead of having just a mod, is coming in Season 19. And then finally he said that Rampage, Surrounded, and Dragonfly spec mods are going to go away, and their bonuses will be folded into buffing the base perks. And so the mods specifically may not be in the game anymore, but their benefits are going to kind of roll into the base perks to some degree. He also indicated that there are problems with the linear fusion rifle class in general, and I'd say that's probably based on how strong they are and how often it becomes a non-decision really, right, to go ahead and run a linear fusion rifle as opposed to other heavies. Plus he said that kinetic weapons have been falling behind because of a lack of elemental interactions, and they're looking at that for the future. So some pretty important things to take note of there, and a good preview for some of the broader weapon changes that Bungie are looking at for Lightfall and beyond. And so feel free to share your thoughts on that as always. Next though, there was a Lightfall interview with GameSpot recently, and it's more focused on development and some of the early decision making around Lightfall. But when we started planning the Witch Queen and looking at the surrounding seasons, we said we really like the true detective element of Witch Queen, and they realized that this is going to be the heaviest 5 years of Destiny we've ever made. As we started getting towards Lightfall, we said, how can we keep the stakes high but change the mood for a release? We looked at things like The Empire Strikes Back, and that has a feeling of, oh my gosh, the heroes lose, but the movie doesn't feel like they lose the whole time. So we look at things that are really high stakes that have a different tone, and we got really attracted to the sort of blockbuster action movies. And they talk about the departure in the destination, how Neomuna is something different to what Bungie have worked on before, and they say it'll be an interesting change in the player perspective and a different feel, and also the fact that Neomuna feels like a lived-in destination as opposed to an abandoned destination, which has kind of been the case for a lot of the stuff that we've seen in Destiny 2. Neomuna has tighter gameplay spaces, more interior to exterior changes, and it says not every place that you go into in Neomuna is a science facility, which feels like everywhere else you go in Destiny, it's like they did science here, but it's not true for all the spaces you're going into in Neomuna. They talk about how this has been a challenge for Bungie to a degree, building those more kind of lived-in spaces, being able to build the evidence of that, and trying to give the destination a different vibe. And certainly based on the initial impressions, looking at it, they visually achieved that, so it'll be interesting to explore the destination and see what kind of things are taking place there. So really just a few insights about how Bungie are thinking about some of the elements of Lightfall there. I'll link that full interview down below. And for today, guys, that is what we have to talk about in this video. So as always, I'll keep you posted with more Destiny content. If you want to stay up to date with that, feel free to get subscribed and hit the bell icon so you get notifications as soon as new content drops. Also, feel free to share your thoughts down in the comment section. And if you've enjoyed the video, a rating below really does help us out as well. Otherwise though, for now, I appreciate you tuning in. And whatever you guys get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.